Welcome back to Who's Number One, presented by Saucony. Brie Oakley. First and foremost, we got to jump into speed round to talk about her because her number one 5K from 2 weekends ago, her number one 3 mile from this weekend have nearly the exact same speed rating. That is amazing consistency over different courses and different conditions early on in the season. If she wants to defend that Colorado title NXN, she's looking in great early season form. Now also from Woodbridge, Lewis and Cooper, those guys going 1-2, sub 14, they joined the 190 club, blazing fast times out in California. But also getting over the 190 speed rating, and maybe more impressive because their performances were so low. Connor Lane in North Carolina, Noah Jacobs in Michigan both hit 191s this weekend. Then finally, solidifying what we already knew, American Fork has the best 1-2-3 punch in the United States of America. All three of the guys dominating at the Viking Invitational. Now, switching gears, deep dive, NXN Midwest this week. Is Neuqua Valley as good as we thought they were? Are Glenbard West contenders to make NXN? Wildcard, what's going on in the Midwest? We bring in our man, Tony Jones, to break it all down for us. One of the biggest things in the Big West, of course, is Neuqua Valley, and really highly ranked, a lot of hype going into the season. From what you've seen so far, what are your thoughts on them being up there in the top of the country?
Paul Vandersteen is their head boys coach. They have won the NXN title. They're a very, very good team, man. They're bordering on being great. He's very nonchalant. I did a couple of interviews with him. I don't know if you saw any of them yet, but he doesn't like to give a whole lot yet, and I think they're banking on the state meet, which if they continue to do what they're doing, they should win pretty easy, and then get ready for regionals and then nationals. He's probably about 10 deep, man. We run 3 miles particularly, and I think he has I had to go and look at the stats, but off the top of my head, they haven't ran very meets, but I think he can probably have 10 guys under 15, 30 maybe for 3 miles. If you remember, you were at NXN last year, right?
Yep. That
was considered a quote-unquote down year for them, and I think they finished 14th.
Is this team built to win a national title?
Once he sees us, he won't be upset, but he thinks this might be his best ever team, even better than the Chris Derrick, when he had Chris Derrick running, and that was a great team. That was an awesome team. He doesn't have anyone, obviously, on the Chris Derrick level. Jake might end up running 14:30s by the end of the year, which will put him in pretty good company. That's 3 miles, by the way, 14:30.
Is there any team in the Midwest that can challenge them?
I was looking around. I see Carmel's number one over in Indiana, but they brought the number 2 team over in Indiana a couple weeks ago and battled our top 3 team and got destroyed. So it's hard for me to say if the number 2 team in Indiana couldn't deal with our number 2, number 3 team. Carmel is good. They're always good, but you remember they lost a lot of firepower. They lost the number 1 stud who's running for Indiana University, Beach. They're not as good as last year. Girls, oh yeah, that's a whole different story. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. No, right now I would say Neuqua is probably the best team in the Midwest. Probably, honestly, dude, Downers Grove North in Illinois will probably be our second best team. They haven't faced Neuqua Valley yet. They got a strong pack, but I don't think so.
Briefly mentioned the Carmel girls there. Are they the team to beat on the girls' side in the Midwest?
Yeah, I know we got Glenbard West over here in Illinois. We have 2 front runners, and Lindsay Payne and the freshman phenom Caitlin Hart. But Carmel, they got Linehouse, Sarah Linehouse, and they have the number 2 girl. She's a senior. She's a beast too. No, I think Carmel's the number 1 team in the Midwest over here. I saw they had a 1-minute split with 2 beast front runners. That's hard to, man. When you have 2 Linehouse, it could be a nationally ranked girl. And that 1-minute split off with her. Yeah, they would have to be our number 1 team in the Midwest. I know Centerville, Ohio is pretty good. And they've been to nationals before. Yeah, Carmel, Indiana. Yeah, Carmel, Indiana. I would say maybe Centerville 2, and then maybe Glenbard West 3. Glenbard West girls, they take a little bit of a break from big competition.
Glenbard West, I think, is really interesting because after last season, Lindsay Payne is a name that's pretty familiar at the national scene. But now you have Caitlin Hart coming up, this freshman out of nowhere. We know they have two. Do they have a deep enough team to make a run at NXN?
Well, they have a number 3 girl. Her name is Katie Hoey. She's a sophomore, and she's been running about, she was 30 something seconds behind now, those two, and then they're 4 and 5. I think they just need to keep about a 130 pack. If they could do that, I think they'll be okay, because you figure Kaylin and Lindsay are going to be way out in front. They may go 1-2 at state. If that happens, a 130 split that's legit. I know that sounds heavy for a nationally ranked team, but if you have two, because if you think about it, they could be all Americans, and if I mean, they may not be as tight as Carmel, but they're pretty solid though.
Looking at the Midwest field, we mentioned a couple names. Last year, Midwest was one of the regions that got a wild card team. Is there a team in the Midwest that could have a chance at a wild card selection?
It's too early to say. You know what? I would probably would start thinking about it after this weekend. We have the Palatine Invitational Meet of Champions, which traditionally used to be the most deep invitational in Illinois. It draws some teams from out of state. I think Kentucky brings a couple of squads in. Missouri will bring a couple of squads in. I think after this weekend, we can start looking at that. I would kind of hold off on that right now, because the reason why I say this, every team will at least have 2 major invitationals under their belt statewide, and some other Midwest teams too, and then we can pick that talk up.
If the regional meet was run today, what 2 boys teams and what 2 girls teams ought to qualify?
You know what? Let me go out on a limb. Let me get up on that plank. We'll give 3 girls teams. If today were selection day, I would go Carmel number 1, Glenbard West number 2, Centerville, Ohio number 3. Yeah. You hear that little chatter in the background? That's like my little background music. My little shorty right there. He's about to go to bed. Boys side, on the boys side would be Neuqua Valley, Downers Grove North, and that's it right now. I can't give a number 3 right now.
Thanks again to Tony for joining us on Who's Number One this week. Diving into NXN Midwest, we look at Foot Locker a little bit more. You can check out the full extended exclusive interview below. Stay tuned next week for more from Who's Number One.